All right, I'm going live. I'm live apparently. Hold on. And I'm live here too. Wait, countdown. Okay, now I'm live. How's it going tonight, folks? Hopefully, this stream's going to make your night a little bit better. And if it doesn't, you can go fuck yourself and die a sad and slow and painful death. And yeah, so we're off to a good start. Uh, so today we're going to talk about Graham Allen. And apparently, about 80 of you people on my friends list already know who Graham Allen is because you like Graham Allen. But first of all, I'm going to explain who that is. Graham Allen is a political commentator who's gotten several million views on his Facebook and YouTube, on his Facebook page. He's published books. He's met the president. He has a background in the military. I believe he was a Green Beret. Maybe he was a Navy SEAL. I don't give a shit. And to really describe my problem with Graham Allen, I'm going to use an analogy. See, I view myself as a person with the posture and the body of a man that was kicked by a mule, yet I have an alpha mind, okay? And Graham Allen is somebody with an alpha body, the body of a warrior, a clear killer, a badass, sure, with the mind of a man who's been kicked by a mule. Now, Graham Allen's shtick is basically your token conservative Republican who likes to go out and fire one off at the lefties and let them know what kind of fucking idiots they are. And one thing I realized about Graham Allen is that a common criticism of the right of the left is that a lot of the left are just stupid millennials that don't understand how the world works, yet talk to you in a tone. It's called millennial splaining, like they know everything. And I realized that Graham Allen's actually very guilty of this himself. See, I don't know if people in this country understand this because apparently these people are really elevated to a huge status. And I'm talking about veterans, and I'm not talking about all veterans. I'm just talking about the ones in the media that have made lots of money shilling for the military industrial complex or other dumb causes for Fox News and whatnot. And what I'm getting at is that even though Graham Allen might have been a venerable war hero at one point who did sacrifice for his country, that doesn't mean he knows what the fuck he's talking about anything, or that he's not a stupid man. And I think that that's something people need to come to understand. Not just about veterans, but about any kind of status, how that's used to manipulate the population and kind of spread false truths. Like, I remember one time there was an interview with David Letterman and the guy who literally wrote the book on propaganda, and I can't think of his name. He was actually Sigmund Freud's nephew, but yeah, this guy literally wrote a book called Propaganda. And this, I'm going to think of it in a second. But and the book was influential on Joseph Goebbels, who was Hitler's minister of propaganda, and it's still a book that's used today in understanding propaganda. And when he came on David Letterman, when this guy came on David Letterman, he was introduced as doctor, right? And David Letterman asked him, like, how do you, manipulate people? How does propaganda work? And he very much made the point that, like, I'm not even a doctor. I just told you to call me that, and you did, and that's a very good anecdote about how status is used to kind of spread lies. Because just because somebody has some accolades, like they might be a very respectful veteran or a respectable veteran, that doesn't mean that they're informed on what they're saying or that they're not somehow being used by people to spread lies and spread false narratives. And the specific thing I want to talk about with Graham Allen is he was showing a Fox News clip of a black lady on Kennedy. And it was one of those times where they just bring a black person on to slap them around and show how dumb they are and blah, blah, blah. Typical Fox News shit. And the lady was talking about affirmative action and systematic racism. And to be fair, I just want to say I didn't watch the whole Graham Allen video. Okay. I watched about as much as I could stomach. I fast forwarded it. And he made a point where he said, if this were a racist country, you wouldn't even be allowed on television. I'm gonna repeat that. So he's talking about a black lady, African American, on Fox News, talking about systematic racism, and he said again, if this were a racist country, you wouldn't even be allowed on television. And I thought Graham Allen was a total fucking idiot, but then I just that mic drop, of logic and truth. I shit my pants. I pissed myself. I like went into total like retard. My brain melted, and I was like, holy fuck. Um, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It was a landmark moment in my life where it's like I hear stupid shit all day. Like I've worked customer service of just people being dumb over and over and over again. And it was like, wow, that is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It was so dumb that it made me think about my definition of dumb. Like, holy fuck, it just goes to a whole new level, a whole new depth of stupidity. And here's why that point's dumb. Okay. So when that lady says that America's a racist country, it has nothing to do with whether or not black people are allowed on television or black people are allowed to speak their mind. It has everything to do with the laws in this country that have been used to bolster up the middle class for white people and black people being excluded from those same benefits. The big example that I can think of is the GI Bill. The GI Bill that helped build the American middle class in the 50s and helped bolster the economy into the golden age that it was for the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s and forward. Black people were excluded from that. And because of that, they argue, or people argue, that there is poverty in those communities now that can be traced back to that. Now, I'm not saying that that issue is not more complex or that there's not counter arguments to be made to that, but one of those counter arguments isn't, oh, black people are allowed on TV. So if they're allowed on TV, it must not be a racist country, you dumb bitch. Oh, man. It's like Graham Allen strikes me as the kind of guy who turns to his buddies and says, how come there's not a white television network like there's a black television network where we can just put up the Confederate flag, turn on some cameras, and have a big cousin fuck while we listen to Toby Keith and other awesome country music? I just think that, that guy's a fucking idiot. He doesn't deserve his millions of views. Fuck him. Fuck the military industrial complex. Fuck systematic racism. All right, and then I want to move on to the last part of my video because I'm already at like 7 minutes and 30 seconds in. It's why you should wear a mask. So, and I don't really want to upset people on this issue because I'm more kind of bifurcated, if that's the word I'm looking for. I kind of see both sides. So, to the side of people who are against wearing a mask, even though I don't support that specific action, one thing I do support is the idea that the economic shutdown affects everybody. Like, I've seen people on Facebook share a lot of memes about how, like, caring if you wear a face mask or caring if if you can go get your hair cut or whatever, that's just a privileged white person thing. But I would counter that by saying that, how would an economic shutdown and shutting down of businesses and this standstill not affect people of color more if you believe that they're already being systematically oppressed? Don't they need to make money more? Don't they need to have their barbershops open and their movie theaters open and all these black businesses? Don't they need to be open even more if they live in a country that oppresses them? Which, again, I do agree with to an extent. So this isn't just like a white and black issue. If you're being denied money, if the economy's shut down, that matters for everybody. And again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't support the shutdown or that we shouldn't wait until the coronavirus even plunges more. I'm not saying that I don't see any of those arguments, but it's not a purely like white privilege Trump supporter thing to say, hey, I want to go get my haircut. I need to open up my business again. I just think that's incredibly ignorant. And it just like, I think that there's a fundamental contradiction in saying that, yes, certain people are oppressed, but like, let's keep the economy shut down like that. Again, like, I don't know. I guess just think about it from that perspective of that contradiction. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, if I'm wrong, like, yeah, let me know. And I guess the other point I want to make about a mask is like, I'm going to have an anecdote, a story for you. So I worked at, Walmart before. I worked for Walmart before I actually worked at Walmart in one of the sample booths, and I noticed that like all the Oriental people there, most of them like that were immigrants, that they were already wearing face masks. And my aunt spent some time in Asia, and I asked her about it, and she said, like, it's common courtesy in Asian countries to wear a mask if you have a cold. It's just like because they're more of a collectivist culture. So it's like, we come before everybody else kind of thing. And like, again, if you don't support wearing a mask, it's like I'm not trying to completely shit on your point of view because I sort of see where you're coming from. But my thinking is, how does a mandate to wear a mask not help the economy open sooner? Right? Like, assuming that you believe that the coronavirus is a real thing and actually a threat to people, and um, like it's not just completely made up or whatever, right? Like, how do restrictions on like such as wearing a mask, wiping down thing, wearing gloves, how does that not like kind of um, help stop the spread of coronavirus and thus make it sooner for us to open up the economy? I'm saying like that mandate of wearing a mask is something that's going to help us reopen sooner. It's going to help you get what you want. Like being opposed to this on just like a freedom level, like again, like if you think that way, you think that way. But like think about the ends and the means. Like if the means of wearing a mask, right, helps the ends of the economy being reopened so we can go back to our normal lives, whatever that may be, to me, that's a very fair trade. And yeah, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on Graham Allen and systematic racism? Anyway, you guys have a good night.